If you've watched any of my videos before, you can probably tell that I'm a huge fan of Digimon, but even then I still have some very silly little pet peeves. Some of these nitpicks are things that fans do, and other things are those that the official releases do that annoy me. Before I start, it should go without saying, but I'll say it anyway, these are subjective opinions and fairly not important on the grand scheme of things. So if these pet peeves are things that you like, power to you. These are things that I personally, as a human being, as a person with their own thoughts and opinions, have. So take everything that I say with a grain of salt. Let me know your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Tell me why I'm wrong, tell me why I'm right. That's why we're interesting as individuals. We have our own opinions, and it's cool if our opinions differ. Yay! So, with all that said and done, let's begin. Now, first of all, in terms of official releases and official treatment of the franchises by the IP holders, so Bandai, Toei, etc., etc. And yes, while I understand that adventure sells really well, nostalgia sells, adventure sells as a concept internationally, so I'm very understanding of that fact. I understand that it sells better than all previous seasons. Nostalgia power, yes, cool, but I just wish we'd kind of stop milking adventure so much. I wish we'd stop getting new adventure movies and merchandise in a similar way. I'd really like if more releases of model kits and other similar figure releases would have less adventure characters in Digimon, and especially less Omegamon focus. Again, I understand that adventure is a safe sell, but I've enjoyed when Digimon tries to do things a little differently, with Digimon Ghost Game and Appmon being fairly different to the rest of the anime series. And despite Digimon Survive feeling like an adult retelling or reboot of Digimon Adventure, it still felt different enough. So at least if you're going for some adventure nostalgia, do it in a similar way that you did with Survive. Very similar cast of characters, very similar partner Digimon, very similar setting of kids go on camp, get isekai'd. That's very cool, but the rest of it felt different enough that it felt like, yeah, an adult reboot of Digimon Adventure. So yes, I understand that Adventure sells well, but me as a fan, I kind of wish they'd stop milking it so much. Even though it's milked because it is successfully done so, it clearly makes enough money for Bandai and Toei to continually milk the adventure universe. Related to this is the fact that each new adventure story that we've had lately has seemed like an ending to the adventure canon. Last Evolution Kizuna felt very final, but it was still leading to the world scene in the epilogue of Zero Two. I've always also been somewhat amused that Kizuna released, and then we immediately had a reboot of the original adventure, followed by the upcoming Zero Two movie, which is titled The Beginning. It's kind of like how we had the end of Evangelion, and then they immediately pretty much rebooted it, and continued on from there, despite something being called The End. It's kind of amusing. And then, of course, we have the fact that most adventure movies seem to be like our war game, Hurricane Touchdown, or both, with Kizuna being the most guilty for being a fool of self-plagiarizing. It had elements from our war game, Hurricane Touchdown, and even Try. It was kind of amusing to me that it was just those three movies. Again, I would like more adventure stories to be their own, like, unique story rather than, again, self-plagiarizing. It's like, as of recording this, the Zero Two movie has not come out, so if you're watching this past the date of, like, late October 2023, you can roast me in the comments. I don't have the power of seeing the future, unfortunately, but I'm kind of just sitting here waiting for, hey, how are we going to do our war game this time, I wonder? Are we just going to do Revenge of Diaboromon again? Are we going to do Try again, but this time the Zero Two characters are there? I don't know. But I would be pleasantly surprised if it's not just a retelling of the adventure movies that we've already had. So that's a pet peeve that I have. Every adventure movie feels like it's just self-plagiarizing another adventure movie, especially in the case of Kizuna being Try Again, which is just hilarious to me. So there is that. And lastly, and this is more of a pet peeve of the shonen genre, like overall, so this is not unique to Digimon at all by any means, but I kind of wish that we didn't get the new evolution being so overpowered, so invincible, we'll beat something, and then immediately, like the next episode, it will be completely weakened. The worst case of this was in Digimon Frontier, except in the case of Izumi, who is a trendsetter because she loses in her own evolution episode, so I guess she doesn't get to participate in the shonen format. It is also very professional wrestling how you get this new guy, and you want to make the new guy seem really, really popular. You want to make him go over with the crowd, so you have him up against a complete jobber, and then the next few times you might see him, the guy himself becomes, or herself, or themself, becomes a jobber themselves, being that their job is to make the other person that they're fighting look good and strong and put them over with the crowd. So it's not unique to Digimon, it's not even unique to the shonen genre, but it's just something I wish we saw less of, and except in the case of Frontier, which again, they made Izumi lose in her evolution episode, which I've been mad about for like 2 decades now. So that's a me thing, I guess. Then, of course, there are pet peeves that I have with not the official releases, but within the fandom and communities itself. First of all, and this is my main pet peeve, it's something that I've been mad about, like, again, 2 decades, so it's a me thing, is when people incorrectly call, the first series of Digimon, which is Digimon Adventure, set in 1999, Digimon Adventure 01. That never made sense to me because it's set in 1999, and 02 is set in 2002, that's why it's 02. So, Digimon Adventure 99 released and was set in 1999, so calling it 01 is just incorrect, especially when you're tying it in with 02 itself. The only official Digimon story called 01 is V-Tamer, which is not referring to any year like 02 was. It also doesn't help that in various English and Asian releases, Tamers and Frontier were referred to as 03 and 04 respectively. And then we also have the case of bootleg DVDs, which really like calling Digimon Adventure 01. And then this is in a similar sort of vein to this, is that calling the first Digivice the D2, while it's become more or less a fan name for it, it's not actually called that. The D3 was called the D3 not because it was the third Digivice, but because of the 3 features Digital, Detect, and Discover. This is often also, and it's not called the D2, some people call the Digivice from the first season of Digimon the Digivice 01, which is also not correct because the Digivice 01 is actually the Digivice in V-Tamer. V-Tamer 01 uses the 01 Digivice, which is sometimes why people call the Digivice in Adventure the D2, because the 01 being the first one, the D3 being the third one, the D2 being not anything. There is that. And that's something that is, I mean, it's kind of become an almost official name to call it the D2, even though it is not officially correct. It's not officially called that. I looked as hard as I could to find instances of Digimon Adventures Digivice being called the D2, and all I could see were unofficial sources calling it that. So that, as far as I can tell, it's not officially being called that. In a similar way, my final pet peeve is when people call non-Digivice virtual pets Digivices. So the original Digimon virtual pet, the Brick, people sometimes call that incorrectly a Digivice despite it not being a Digivice in any piece of Digimon media. The Digimon virtual pet Brick that we saw in V-Tamer does become a Digivice as the Digivice 01. We also have the Digimon mini virtual pet become the Digivice IC in Digimon Next, but the individual virtual pets themselves are not typically a Digivice. There are exceptions to this, being the Digimon IC, being both a Digivice in the show, and then the Japanese release of the Digivice IC toy was released as a traditional virtual pet with traditional virtual pet mechanics. And then, of course, there's the Vital Bracelet, which had the Digivice V and the Dual V, but it's questionable whether or not it's a virtual pet or a Digivice. I just say it's both. It is the best of both worlds in that way. So those are my pet peeves, both from official releases of Digimon as well as within the communities and fandoms themselves. Again, if you do any of these things that I said is a pet peeve in the community and you don't intend on fixing it because you just thought it was correct, go ahead, you can still use those terms. Again, D2 has been used long enough that it's effectively like if you say, hey, I want a Digivice D2, people will know what you mean. It might not be correct, but it can be sort of like a fanon name for it. It's not that big in the term of grand scheme of things. In terms of official releases, yes, I know why we milk Adventure. I'm not one of those people who hate on Adventure. I think it's just okay. It's the start of a franchise, and it works. It sells. It works for Bandai, it works for Toei. They are going to continue doing the thing that makes them money rather than take risks. That makes sense to me. I just don't have to like it. I just can roll my eyes at the Adventure things. I'll still buy them. I'll still watch the movie. I'll still buy the releases. I also am weak to nostalgia, but overall, would kind of like other model kits that aren't just Adventure-wise, which we've been getting. We've been getting those. We got Shine Greymon. That's cool for me. We got the Ulforce Veedramon gem figure from Savers, which is not where I think of Ulforce Veedramon from, so I do accept that we do get non-adventure things, but again, that's just what I think anyway. So let me know your pet peeves, let me know if you do any of these things that is a pet peeve, let me know all your thoughts, comments, questions, etc, etc. Roast me if this is the future and the 02 movie is out and it's a completely unique concept and it doesn't reference our war game Hurricane Touchdown Try or Kazuna, except in like, hey, remember that time that we had a character who was an older Digidestined and then her Digimon died and that made her an antagonist? Oh yeah, that happened twice. Remember the time we had Willis and then Mako and then Maki and then Manoa, who were just random characters that were always there? Just give me the worldwide chosen. Anyway, like this video for me having opinions and thoughts because I'm my own individual person. Subscribe if you haven't already, and if you have subscribed, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your enemies, and of course, I'll see you in the next video. Bye!